it's your girl Mercy Art. So today I have to say that first of all, I've stayed in Sweden for 2 months, and I just happened to collect a few things that I think will be interesting to you. So the title of the video today is the things you need to know before you come to Sweden. So basically I'm trying to focus on my experience, at the same time some of the things other colleagues have faced, other people who have moved out of their country to come here. What are some of the things that you need to consider before you come? And I have 20 of them, so I will try to make it fast and not boring. Number one, first of all, you have to know that Sweden has a rough population of 10.3 million people, and Stockholm is the capital city of Sweden. That's one. Then we have one fact, that Sweden is a Scandinavian country, just like the others, Finland, Denmark, etc. That's the first thing you have to know. The second one, once you land at Arlanda airport, basically, what do you do from there? Number one, chances are you may not be living somewhere around there. You will be forced to take a bus, a train, or a taxi. So the reason why I say this is because you really have to organize yourself accordingly, because the moment you land, chances are you may not really know where you are supposed to go to and how you're supposed to go to. So the first thing at least to do is contact someone who is going to really give you a heads up on that. You have the chance of taking a bus from Arlanda airport to wherever you're going. Chances are maybe you'll be going to Stockholm, Malmö, Gothenburg, whichever. Or you can take a train, and I've been told that with the train there are two types of trains that you can take. You can take the expressway, the express train that takes you all the way to Stockholm, or the general one that kind of stops over to different places. Or you can take a taxi, and the reason why I kind of pointed out in that order, because the bus is the cheapest, then followed by the train, then followed by the taxi, which is the most expensive. So depending with the kind of arrangement you've made prior to coming will determine which means you're going to use. And sometimes you can be lucky enough to have someone who's going to pick you from the airport, maybe with their car. Lucky you. For me, I had to take a taxi here. So number three, you need to get a SIM card. And by that I mean, how do you communicate? Now, the first thing I did, first of all, there is a friend of mine who bought for me the SIM card. It's written SIM card. Kort is a card in Swedish. I don't know how to pronounce the other one. Kort. Okay, I'm here to learn Swedish. So this one was going for 45 krona. It's roughly around 550 shillings, Kenya shillings, or $5 US. So you have to be careful, because in most cases, some of the SIM cards kind of expire. Based on this one, it actually has an expiration date. Like now, this one is expiring on 2024, 1st of January. No, 31st of January. So basically, when you're buying this, you have to get the SIM card activated. Now, we have different stores that can do that for you. The most common one is Press Byron. I used to call it Press Byron, but then that's not the pronunciation. So the first one, which was bought by my friend, unfortunately, I had not really activated it, so it expired. So I had to buy this second one. So that's one thing you have to really do the moment you come, basically for your communication. But we're lucky enough to have WhatsApp. You can still retain your WhatsApp number. For me, I retain my Kenyan WhatsApp number. I still use that. But sometimes when I want to communicate locally, I have to use the Swedish number. If you're coming for work, let's say, chances are your employer will give you a specific number that they can contact you. Or if you're coming as a student, depending with the arrangement that you have. So that's also another thing you have to put in consideration. Number four, this is a cashless country. And what do I mean by this? They rarely use their currency. Trust me, living in Sweden for 2 months, it was only last week that I got a chance to hold the notes, the currency, the Swedish krona. And in most cases, you go to different stores, they don't necessarily accept cash. So if you're coming here, you may really need to be careful in terms of, how do I put it? Carrying either the US dollars or the euros. Chances are you may not use it at all, because even for them, they don't really use the cash per se. Most places accept the normal ATM cards. I think the debit cards or something. You can use that. Make sure that your account has some money, and by that I mean that means you have to really be prepared in terms of having some savings with you, so that when you come you don't get stranded. Or if you're coming and you're being hosted by someone, maybe these are things you need to discuss prior. If you're a student, same thing. So the normal ATM card that you use at home, you can still use it here, but then based on that you have to kind of double check with your bank. For example, for me, back at home, I was on Standard Chartered, I was in Equity, but I only managed to verify with Standard Chartered whether I can do the international transactions, because if you don't do that, you might come here and then you find that your card is not working. So you need to counter check that with your bank, whether your account can do international transactions. So that's one thing. Actually, that's point number 5, double checking whether your card is accepted. That's one. Also make some savings just to be on the safe side. At least have some money when you come. Now, number 6, you need to get a bank account. That's another long story. You must have a Swedish bank account, and at the same time you must have a bank ID. It's such a long process, by the way. But before I get to the logistics of getting the bank account, you need to have some essential documents that will help you be here and get your life started. The first one, we have what we call a person number. A person number is almost equivalent to a social security number in other countries. Once you get that, in most cases, the person number is basically the year which you're born, the date and the month, and then you're given some other 4 coded special digit numbers. Now, the whole number now gives you what you call the person number, which is your social security number. The moment you get the person number, you are supposed to get a national ID. That's something totally different. With a national ID, it allows you also to open the bank account. You find that all these documents, if you don't really have the documents, it makes it very hard for you to even get something simple like a bank account. I know in my country, it's very easy. When you go to the bank, you get your account on the same day. Chances are you might even get the ATM card maybe 2 days to. Nowadays, it can be even on the same day, the moment they take a picture and then they have the chip coin card, and you have it and you go home with the bank account. Here, it's totally different. And for this person number, the national ID, we have our tax agency known as the scatter bucket. You have to go and register there. And for you to get even the person number, you have to prove that you're here legally. And way before that, you must have your, your passport. You must have your residence permit. You must have, let's say, sometimes they even ask for the contract in case you came here through work. The contract from your employer specifying that you're here legally, you've been employed at this and this place. It has all the details, sometimes even how much you earn, all those kind of things. If you're a student who is seeking a person number, for example, you must have the letter of admission, you must have your passport, you must have the letter from the university, depending, basically. Yeah, if you're here, let's say, through marriage or whatever, I think that's a story for another day, because for me, I've not experienced that. I'll only be giving examples based on what I've experienced. Okay, so now we have the scatter bucket, which you apply for your person number, your national ID, and it takes time. It's a whole process. So once you have these 2 documents, you can now apply for a bank account. However, in some banks, it's not a must for you to have gotten the national ID. As long as you have the person number, at least you're qualified to apply for a bank account. And even applying for a bank account, you must also carry with you the contract that you're given by the employer. That's one. You must carry your passport, your residence permit. Definitely, they ask for all those kind of documentation just to prove that you're here legally. And that's not it. The moment you apply, when you go to the bank, once you apply to get your bank account, they give you around 2 weeks to give you a response. They will give you a response to tell you when, or to approve your application. And once you get the response, that's when you're called to the bank. You go there, they'll give you all the details. I think that I'll really focus so much on explaining on another video, because it's such a long process, giving you an overview of how long it takes to do what. I think that can come on another video, because today it was typically about things you need to know before you come, not so much into details about how long it takes to get something. What has then mentioned? Now, number 8, issues concerning transport. How do you move from point A to point B here in Sweden? The good thing about the country is that the transport system is super efficient. It's one of the best, let me say that. Very, very efficient, no traffics, no nothing. So the mode of transport that I've been using here since I came mostly is the train and the buses and the pendeltåg. So it's such a country that you don't really necessarily need to have a car per se. Unlike in my country, that's Kenya, it was very, very efficient for you to have a personal car because you're able to move from point A to point B very easily without really straining. You're able to carry your stuff. Now here it's the opposite. Like having a car, I feel like it's more stressful because at some point there are places which you have to park and you have to pay for parking even if it's at night. If it's a place, let's say you don't stay there or you don't work there, trust me, you have to really pay for the parking, not unless it's a free public parking. So I find that to be strenuous, especially now that I'm just trying to learn my way. Getting a car, I think, is too much for me. So the transport system is very efficient. Now, there's something called the SL card. I was told that SL means Stockholm Landstrafik. Basically, it is a card that allows you to commute around Stockholm. We also have different types of the same card, or rather the same system in other cities. But I'll only talk about Stockholm because that's where I am right now. So we have the SL card. It looks like this, you can see. And then within the SL card, of course, it has my name. There is a chip here. You kind of buy these, and it's much easier to buy per month than topping up every single day. So for me, because I use the transport system almost every single day, this goes for around $100. That's like 10,000 Kenya shillings. So with the SL card, once you have it here, you must download an app. Like now, this is my phone. So this is the SL card. So once you have the app right here, I think you can see that. The good thing is it shows you the different ways in which you can move from point A to point B. Let's say from where I am, where I live, if I want to move to another part of Stockholm, I just key in the name of the place I am, or my location, to the place. It shows you which buses are coming at what time, whether it's easier to use a bus, a train, a pendeltåg, whichever. And I was told also, within the same SL card, I can be able to use some of the boats from different places, you know, especially going to those tiny little islands, but not all the boats except the SL card. Yeah, so that's about the transport system. Very efficient, by the way, always on time. There's always a train coming after every 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Perfectly done. Also, the buses are super comfy. You can charge your phone, you know. Very, very modern, let me say that. I mean, when it comes to moving around Stockholm, and of course, any other part within Sweden, is really, really, really efficient. Number 9, issues about housing. Now, there is a housing shortage in Sweden. Because of this, you find that rent is very expensive. So this is something you have to really, really be prepared psychologically, especially in the big cities like Stockholm, Malmö, Gothenburg, Uppsala. We have a crisis, let me say that. So now that means that even getting a place to rent, you really have to sign up in different websites, you know, check out websites such as Blockhead and whatnot, or rely on referrals. It's not like other countries. I'll give an example of Nairobi. Nairobi, if you want to rent a house, sometimes you could be driving by, you see a very nice, cute apartment and you want to rent it. You'll just basically walk in there, ask where's the caretaker. You're shown around, are there any vacant houses? Within no minute tomorrow, you can get a key and move in. Now here, especially in Stockholm, it's really, really hectic sometimes. To a point where I say, by the time you just get a place to rent, you count yourself really lucky. Thank God, to me, like it was a bit, let me say, it was not such a hassle because at least I had known a friend who had rented another place now. I had to move to the place, you know, that it was a little bit easy for me. But moving forward, I think it's such a crisis. So that's one thing you have to really know. So don't be so ambitious in terms of, okay, I'm moving to Sweden. You don't know anyone. You don't make any connections. You think everything will just work out, especially in the housing industry. You have to be prepared psychologically on that. But then the good thing is we have also very many apartments and houses which are ready for buying. And the beauty about it is that once you have the money, even if you're a foreigner, you can easily buy a house here or an apartment or whichever, you know. Great. And based on that, I can say also one thing I've experienced about the systems in Sweden. Everything is just so smooth. As long as you have the papers, as long as you're doing everything, you are on the right books, let me say, everything will work for you. They may take some time in some cases, especially in verifying what's on the paper, but it's very, very good because you don't need to push, you don't need to call someone to push something for you. Everything is very straightforward. And one thing I've really noticed about this country is that most everyone is trying to be as straightforward as possible. People are very open, transparent. There's no, I don't really know the English word of it, but then things work. Sweden allows you to travel to so many travel destinations around Europe at affordable and convenient means. I'll give examples. For example, Norway. You can actually go to Norway by bus. I was very shocked about that, by the way. Only that it may take around 9 hours. So that means it could be a distance of maybe 500 to 600 kilometers, if I'm not wrong. Because I'm trying to imagine, back in my country, from Nairobi to my home, I'll drive maybe 7 to 8 hours. So I'm trying to imagine that's almost the same like driving to Norway. So you can actually take a bus to Oslo, you can take a train, you can take a flight as usual, and with the flight maybe it's 1 hour. So if I'm not wrong, I'm just approximating. Then you can also travel to Finland using the ship. Previously, I think it was last week, we took a cruise ship to Finland for 24 hours. It was super amazing, really, really, really awesome. So you find that Sweden is geographically located in a way that you're able to really visit so many travel destinations, mostly around Western Europe. You can go to Denmark, and with Denmark you can either go through by bus, train, or flight. You can visit other places such as Spain, Greece, Italy, Germany, Austria. I think it's fantastic. That's such a big advantage. I know most people will really, really not like this, but Stockholm is one of the most expensive cities in Europe, okay? So you have to really, really know that. You have to be psychologically prepared on that. First of all, when you go to the stores and supermarkets, things which are ordinarily affordable in your country, chances are here the price is up there. So you have to know that. I remember the first time my roommate took me to the store, and I was looking at the price of tomatoes and very simple things like dania and parsley. I was shocked, and she would tell me, yeah, that's in fact this is cheap. I was looking at her, I'm like, that's cheap. Okay, basically I can say this: the moment you convert the Swedish krona to your currency, I think you'll understand why some things may appear cheap to the Swedes, but to you they may appear very expensive. I think if you're lucky enough to be having a job here and you're earning their currency, it makes a lot of sense. But then if you're coming, let's say for example from Africa or Kenya, you have the mindset of converting everything to shillings. Trust me, there are things which are very expensive. For example, I was buying a pack of eggs. There are like 6 of them there, and it was weighing was it 50? No, 30. It was 30 krona. That's around 400 shillings. 400 shillings, I can get a whole crate of eggs in my country. Like with 320 or so, I can get a whole pack, a whole tray, But now here I was only buying 6 of them. So I was even telling her like, this is expensive. So she looks at me, she's like, no, these ones are cheaper. So trust me, that was something else. So you have to really know that Stockholm is expensive. But the good thing is, most of the things in Stockholm have a very good quality, starting from clothes, shoes, bags, name it all. Even some of the facial products, hair products. Before I came here, I had a very crazy breakout on my face. So I went to one of the stores. It kind of sells stuff for ladies and, for the facials. I bought one tube of cream and it was very expensive. In fact, I came back home. I showed her and I was like, wow, I bought this. It's super expensive. I just hope it works out. And trust me, within 1 week, my face just cleared. So you find that as much as things are expensive, it's worth it. Like it's worth buying such, yeah. Sweden is extremely beautiful. Very beautiful, and it's surrounded by nature. You know, you walk around, you get, let me say it's a country, get the vibes, both modern, both natural. Let me say it's kind of a cocktail of everything that you can imagine, you know. For example, the place I live in, of course, it's full of apartments, houses, and homes. But then at the same time, you walk a few kilometers, no, not even kilometers, just a short distance already, you're into nature, you know, different trees and whatnot. There's, you know, the water bodies. Let me say, it has really preserved its nature, which is something else. I rarely see these, by the way. Back in China, I think you notice that there's a lot of, you know, concrete jungle kind of a setup, but now in Sweden, it's different. Like you may have that, but then at the same time, you can always walk into nature, have some nice fresh air, and, you know, just cool off, and you have a very nice vibe going on. Let me talk about positive vibe. Now, this brings me to something else. Now, most people in Sweden really, really take their time to groom themselves. What do I mean by this? In most cases, when you walk around, even in, let's say, for example, you're using the metro, you're using, maybe you're just somewhere in the public, most people you realize, and I'm talking about both men and women, everyone tries their best to look good. I've not seen shaggy looking men and women in Stockholm, or let me say Sweden in general. I'm not seeing lots of careless sweatpants and funny looking t-shirts, no. Even in the trains, people look good, like people try their best to groom themselves. That's something which I really admire. Like you can tell everyone is trying to be a better version of themselves, which is amazing. Now, this basically brings me to something else. I don't know if I mentioned this, but most people in Sweden are very diligent. Everyone tries their best to do the right thing. Timekeeping is just on another level. People value time, and not only their time, they also value other people's time. That's something which is really, really admirable. Let me say that. I know this video is so much, it may sound too good to be true, but guess what? That's the reality here. When you actually, let's say, for example, you've scheduled a meeting with someone and it's 5 minutes too, and they think they're getting late, trust me, they will send you a message, an email, or call you to tell you, I might be 5 minutes late, I might be 10 minutes late. In most cases, everyone arrives on time or even before time. So I think coming from Africa, this is just a total different concept, you know. But the good thing is I really adjusted very quickly, because this is something which I used to do even though I was not in Europe, even though I was in Kenya. I used to really try my best to keep time, you know. So here, people really value their time, they value each other's time. Then there's the general respect, you know, which is fantastic. I really, really like that. What else? I had actually written all this down so that I don't forget. Yeah, there is another one. Actually, it's not 16. I think I skipped a little bit, but then anyway. Now, this is a little bit weird, but most homes and houses do not have curtains. That is something else. Actually, especially at night, when you're walking around, you'll realize that you can easily see through people's living rooms, which is weird and amazing at the same time. So you're passing around and you can see those are watching a TV, those are having dinner. So technically, it's very common for households not to have, you know, curtains. I think it's the opposite. When I go back to my country, when you move into a place, the first thing that you do is to get a curtain. But here is too much of, voila, this is what we're having in our homes. Anyway, there's something else here. We have something called fika. Now, fika is kind of a Swedish cultural get-together, something that bonds people. In most cases, you find that it can either happen at work or in general homes. It's kind of a setup of people coming together to share, let's say, coffee, tea, snacks, some cookies, but at the same time interact with each other. And I think it really helps the well-being of the society. In most cases at work that happens, and I think it's also a sense of appreciation from the management to the workers or the employees. also it really helps in terms of easing up the unifying spirit among people. I don't know if I'm making sense, but then that's basically my understanding of fika. In most cases, you find that during fika there is always a lot of nice goody stuff. You can always have that, and I think I've really enjoyed that. It's one of the reasons why I think many people are adding weight, especially the ones who are experiencing this for the first time, because there's always everything to eat. There's always sugary sweets and cookies, coffee, whatnot, everything in short. Yeah, and you notice, for me, I come from the Luya community. We are usually known to really love food so much. So you can imagine this is something that I really love. Okay, now we have something else. That's education system here. Now, I think Sweden has one of the best education system in the world. And by that, I really mean the best, yeah? So we know about the Finnish education system, but actually also Swedish education system is also matching up to Finnish one, because I've been to the country and I've explored. I've been here, I've been looking into different educational institutions, and trust me, it's amazing. Starting with the facilities, the nature and how the nature of the curriculum. It's really interactive. It really assists the students to really know what they're doing. Let me say that. And the beauty about the education system here is that it's free to all the citizens and to all the holders of the permanent resident permits. So I think it's something else. I think in Africa, do we even have any country that offers free education system? I don't know. In my country, we have for the primary level, of which we have the private schools which still charge. Now here it's totally free. And in fact, when you go to the university, let's say for example, you want to do your diploma, degree, master's, PhD in the university, you're actually given a stipend. You're given a stipend, you're able to take some good loans, and they give you an ample time to pay. So I think that's really amazing. Also the health sector in Sweden is really one of the best as well. The health facilities are on another level, and the good thing is it's free also to all the citizens and to all the holders of the permanent residence permits. And apart from that, you notice that the dental care, I was told that is not purely free. Same thing with the optic care, is not purely free. So in case you're coming here, you may need to really maybe take insurance for your dental care. And for the optic care, I've been told, yes, you can pay, but then we have so many affordable facilities that can offer that. Now, this actually brings me to the other point, which is the taxes. The taxes in Sweden are damn expensive. Taxes go up to 30%. And I think it's self-explanatory, because if you're getting free education, if you're getting free healthcare, then there's no harm in having high taxation, I know this is debatable, yeah, but then it makes a lot of sense, because the taxes that the citizens are paying will go into the education system, will go to the healthcare system, will also go to the transport system, because the transport system in Sweden is very affordable. You can imagine with this kind of card, I only need to pay 10,000 Kenya shillings, that's $100, and I'm able to move around Stockholm any place I want. And if I was in another city, I'll also have something equivalent to this, but then it's very affordable. You can imagine if I was to, let's say I was in another country, how much will it take you just to pay for the transport moving from point A to point B? And remember, if you have this card, you can actually use the train, the bus, the pendeltåg, sometimes the boats. So basically it explains why the taxes are so high. It's worth it anyway. I think I mixed up the numbers. Then we have another point. You need to ensure, that kind of brings me back to the point of housing. You have to ensure that the person who is renting it to you is authorized to do so, because you have, I was told that we have a setup whereby someone can be the first owner in terms of renting, then they can sublet. Let's say they rent it out again. So before you rent out a place, you must know, or rather you must ask the person whether they are authorized to do so. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Sweden has lots of darkness, so you have to really be prepared psychologically. This brings me to this explanation now. In most cases, we have the sunrise at around 8 a.m. and then the sun sets at around 3:30. So you can imagine there's lots of darkness, like the number of hours that you spend in darkness are way more than during the time you have light. That means that before you come to Sweden, you have to really ensure that you soak up all the sun that you can have in your country. Because when you come here, because especially during the time I came was in autumn, and I've been told that, of course, definitely I've experienced it before, but then during winter it's even worse because you have lots and lots of darkness. And this explains something very, very funny that usually happens in Sweden. Sometimes you'll walk around, especially on the days that the sun is out, you'll just find people staring and glaring at the sun like this and closing their eyes. I never imagined I'll do that, but I notice anytime we have the sun out and maybe the degrees are a little bit higher than usual, I just go and soak up and feel so good. And because of that, I think especially we, the people who have my kind of skin tone, you must have at least the supplements, like this. I have the vitamin D supplements. I never imagined in my whole life that I'll be taking supplements. That's crazy. So I had to buy this for the vitamin D. I also bought the omega-3, which also has the vitamin D3. And this can really help you so much. So you take 1 or 2 tablets every single day. It helps you out. In case you don't do this, and in case you're not really getting the sun, trust me, you can really, really feel fatigued. There's a way in which you just feel your body is getting overwhelmed. So that, you really have to know that psychologically. So before you come here, soak in all the energy in terms of getting the sun rays on your skin as much as possible. Now we have another one. This will take quite some time. Okay, so we have the last one, which is a social mannerism of the Swedes. I've broken it down into a few areas that can be easily understood. Now we have the first one. Most of the Swedes have the natural social distancing. I'll explain what I mean by that. In most cases, I've noticed this in the public domain. People give each other a distance. Let's say, even if people are talking to each other, you never see people so close like this. And I think my Kenyan buddies, my Kenyan people will really, really be shocked about this because we have lots and lots of being together. Sometimes when you're talking to someone, you're next to them, you almost feel like you want to touch them or something like that. No. Here it's different. People give themselves some distance. No wonder the country is not really, really affected so much by COVID. Crazy. I know that's a bad joke. Now, talk about COVID. In Sweden, there's nothing like wearing of masks. I think because everyone is giving themselves natural social distancing, it kind of explains it. That's my own theory though. Now, in most of the common public transport, especially in the trains, in the buses, you will realize because of this, everyone has a way of distancing themselves from each other, in the sense that, assuming you have 4 spots in the train to sit on, there's one person who will sit on the first spot. Immediately when someone comes in, there's no likelihood that the person will sit next to the other person. He or she will go and sit opposite, so you have them opposite each other in a diagonal manner. And in case a third person comes, he or she will not sit on these remaining spots. He or she will stand. So you see, at first that seemed very weird to me because I'm used to our public transport whereby when you sit, there's always another person who comes, even pushes you on the side and sits right next to you, even though there's a seat at the back. Now here it's totally different. Not unless it's very, very full. That's the time someone will sit next to you, like immediately it's next to you. That's one of the things I say. That was a culture shock, Another thing about the social mannerism, let me say, Sweden has people who are very quiet. People value silence. The library silence kind of a thing. Trust me, it happens even in the trains, in the buses. And because of this, you'll find that in the trains, people are just reading books and newspapers. And it's a bit weird because, weird in a sweet way, because I'm used to the kind of environment, especially in case I'm using the public transport in my country. It's usually loud with music and sometimes people making noise and talking to each other. Here it's the opposite. Everyone is super quiet. Not unless you really have to talk to someone. You'll notice also people are talking to each other on low tones, to a point whereby if there's someone who is extremely loud or on the phone, trust me, everyone will just turn and look at this person. Not out of disrespect, but too much of, why are you making noise? Like, they can't understand why you be somewhere and they're just too loud, you know. So I think I noticed that as one of the social mannerisms of Swedes. Then we have, how do you put it, order. And by that I mean Swedes actually appreciate having things done in an orderly manner. Assuming you're walking, let's say you're using, let's say you're just walking. There is a way in which people stick to the right side. If you're walking slowly, stick to the right side so that you allow other people to pass you on the left side. And you'll notice that's one of the, how do you call it, the traffic rules. Even when you're driving, they drive on the right side and you overtake on the left side. So same thing, there's a way in which people have actually stuck to that order. Even on the elevators, when you stand on the elevators, you're going up or down, people kind of move towards the right side so that they allow everyone who is in a rush to use the left side. And it just happens naturally and it's amazing. That's one also in terms of, let's say, in the event that you're trying to wait for a bus and maybe it's the kind of bus that is not commonly used in that route, naturally you'll find people queuing, you know. And as they're queuing, there is usually the distance that you leave. You'll not find people squeezing to each other, you know. I remember there was a time like back in Kenya, when people are queuing, sometimes you can actually feel the person breathing at the back of your back of your head. Here it's a bit different. People will queue but give each other space, you know. That's something else I noticed. And also about the social mannerism, I think generally people here are very humble. There's no bragging here. When you brag, you kind of appear to be, you know, are you okay, you know. The reason why I use the word bragging, so far no one has introduced themselves as Dr. So-and-so, Professor so-and-so, or just with titles. No. Everyone here is kind of down to earth. Titles don't really matter, not unless you're at work, and no one is rubbing it on your face. Unlike other countries whereby you find someone introducing themselves and they're like, I'm Dr. So-and-so, I'm Professor so-and-so, I am Director so-and-so. Here in Sweden, people try to avoid that as much as possible. So I've noticed most people have humility here, which is really fantastic and amazing. And that applies also sometimes to work. Like you realize even in emails, you find someone who's very senior will want to be addressed by their name, their first name, not by their title. So that's also something I noticed, okay? Also, there's one, let me say this is too much of a stereotype. I've noticed also with the Swedes, they are very, very, on a face value, they appear to be reserved. They appear to be distant. They may appear to be cold, but the moment you get to know them, you realize, well, they can be as bubbly as they can be. They are very social, very warm. It's just that in most cases, I think the aspect of giving people space, the people who come in here for the first time, especially the foreigners, you may feel like maybe they are cold or distant. No, that's just the face value, you know. Most people just choose to be neutral like that. But the moment you get to know them, you realize, well, it was just you needed to break some ice and everything goes on. So that's something else that I've really noticed about the social mannerism. Yeah, so now I think that brings us to the end of all the things you need to know before you come to Sweden. In case I missed out something, just comment on the section. If you have any question, raise it up on the comment section, on the chat. I will really, really appreciate in case you really, really have, let me say, suggestions of the things that I can cover in my upcoming videos. I will appreciate if you kind of just comment down below. And also give your views, your opinions about this video, what you think, anything exciting that you might want me to cover within this series of the Sweden Diaries. I would deeply appreciate. So basically, it's me trying to show you Sweden through the eyes of an African girl. Thanks guys, and subscribe if you've not done so. Bye. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.